Hey guys, Erin here with Ruby's Home for Good, and there's a very filthy ghost behind me. And I want to share with you just a little behind the scenes experience we had today. So it's Texas, it's late April, and we had an unusually cool and rainy day. It was about 60 degrees and rainy most of the day. And if you're like me, it was perfect. Like, this is the kind of day you want to be outside because it's not miserable and hot. But I came out and fed, and our buddy Ghost, there he goes, after eating was under the shelter, and he was shivering to the point where I actually reached out to our vet because he was having little muscle tremors at different parts of his body. And I was just concerned. There's different medical conditions horses can get that could cause that. And because we don't have a great knowledge of their background and their full health history, it's just something we want to be mindful of. So reached out to the vet, sent him a video. He's fabulous. We just really love our vet and the support he provides for our herd. And he had suggested that it was just a really strong chill, that with this cold, damp weather and the unusual temperatures for the day, it was probably just that. So get him dry, get him well fed, because eating forage will heat up the gut, which will heat up the body. And that was our solution. So as it goes, with horses, by the time I, 5-10 minutes later had this conversation and went to get some nice loose hay to put under the shelter and get him sorted, the shivering had stopped. It had stopped, and the rain was about stopped by that point too. So whether he'd been shivering all day or just I caught him at a funny moment where he got a little chill, I'm not sure. But I'm going to share with you a series of videos. So I'll give you a little sneak peek of what the shivering looked like, and you'll kind of see what I was concerned about. And then after, the rain kind of stopped a few minutes later, and I put some loose hay out, and he went out, and I saw him take a good roll, and I thought, okay, as long as it's just a roll and not a bellyache, watch him a bit. And then you'll see the next couple videos, which tell us he's feeling just fine. So enjoy the sneak peek, and this is what it's like taking care of horses every day. You don't know what's going to happen, but we work really hard to understand their systems and what kind of support their systems need to be healthy. And, it tends to work out pretty good. So, enjoy our videos, and thank you for following along with Ruby's Home for Good. So this is Ghost on the rainy day in the 60 degrees, and I'm looking at muscle spasms, muscle spasms, some weight shifting. See that up high in the rump again, shoulder, even up in the loin. You okay, buddy? Come on. So one more note that I want to add to this conversation and just kind of tie some pieces together is regarding kind of our work around supporting horses and people who've been through hard things and what it looks like to endeavor to facilitate improved wellness and trauma recovery. And so one of the things that we learn when it comes to tension or trauma or hardship or, those kinds of things, there it goes, is that whether it's physical or mental or emotional, these things can kind of build up in the body. So they're all connected. And when we have tension, again, whether it starts physically or emotionally or mentally, and it gets kind of held in the body, that can cause problems, and it kind of can create this buildup of tension. And so, what I would kind of say about today is the horses probably stood under the shelter most of the day because it was cold and damp and they had some hay under there. So they weren't moving around, and they were probably a little tense in their bodies, just kind of protecting against the cold and being a little damp, which built up this tension, right? And when you're just like holding a tense posture, holding a breath, holding hard things, that just kind of builds up. And when we talk about our trauma recovery, we talk about different ways to help navigate that system to where we're not holding so much. And when we do have things we're holding, how to support that release. And so it just ties together for me, when he first came out after shivering and took a good roll, and then took a little jaunt around the pasture and kind of leapt in the air a couple times, and then did the same thing. He rolled again a couple times, and you can see he's still just active. He's still moving, and a little bit spicy, as we would say with horses. And a lot of people would have a lot of different stories about that, about him being naughty or playful or angry, or whatever our story is about big energy, we can have that about horses. And but if we look at it from the perspective of there was a lot of tension built up in the body and it needs a release, and this is why horses sometimes can be so good at not holding trauma or so good at navigating their own systems, is because they find their own way. And if we give them the conditions, he's not locked in a stall, he's not isolated from his friends, he's not being restricted from food. Like when we give them those conditions that really are important for well-being, like they know how to take care of themselves and they know how to get themselves back to a healthy state. And it's our job to make sure they have the tools to do that. So that's it. I want to tie that piece together and kind of give some context to the rolling and the leaping and the running and the playing, and just kind of highlight that our job is to make sure he has the conditions, the environment that allows his body to do what it needs to do to be healthy. And he's kind of showing us what that might look like today. So thanks for tagging along, and we'll see you on another video. Take care.